Yeah, very, very special opportunity right now.
Because my family always can go out.
No, they cannot leave the home. They can leave everything else. They cannot leave the home because so fearful that they will get harmed and hurt. And even the son of the deceased person, now they have not go to school either. Because her mom is 9 years old. 9 years old.
So they retaliate against
everyone. Yeah, so they threaten the entire family. The job demands for investigation into the death of
ba của nó đó là chết rồi, tại sao mới bắt đêm nay mà ngày mai lại cắt cổ đập đầu chết, khóc hoài.
And the son was very traumatized by the death of his wife. He couldn't understand why his dad died.
Dạ, nói là tại sao ba của nó mới bắt đi một ngày qua ngày sau chết rồi.
He couldn't understand why his dad just died the day after being taken to the police station.
Má nó là không dám cho đi học, sợ nó nói tầm bậy tầm bạ rồi bị giết chết.
And her mom dare not let him go to school because she's afraid that he would say something wrong. And that would invite more persecution against the family.
Bây giờ là gia đình của em nó bị đe dọa giống như là không có trực tiếp mà gián tiếp là đòi là anh của em đi ra nhận tội.
Oh, and they forced and
không có tội gì hết.
They wanted the two brothers of the deceased to admit to having committed crimes, but they didn't know which crime.
Sure. Just fill in the blank.
Gia đình của em ai chết đi nữa.
Too many members of Hoà Hảo Buddhist want to come to support for them, but they stop them from far away. Don't let anyone come here.
Actually, we have lawyers willing to represent them, but the lawyers would not dare to come either, fearing for their own
có một mình
safety.
em ở đây, còn gia đình em ở Việt Nam nó nóng nổi giúp đỡ làm cách nào nhanh để đi qua đây.
She needs the team of the family
giống như
out Việt Nam.
Ba em bảy mấy rồi.
Yeah, her dad is now over 70 already. So very careful for her dad.
Có một mình em cô gái em ở đây thôi.
She's the only one outside Japan.
Cho nên em cũng cần sự giúp đỡ cho gia đình của em nó đi nhanh qua bên này. Em không có muốn ai chết nữa hết.
She doesn't want any other member of the family to face the same.
My family.
And she's very fearful that others might die if she don't act. She wants them to be
cho cháu của em mới được đi học ở bên này, tại vì nó quá khủng hoảng, ba nó chết như vậy đó. Nó hỏi hoài, nó hỏi tại sao cắt đầu, đập đầu còn cắt cổ. Nó nói vậy đó, nó rất là sợ.
And 9-year-old son is now very fearful.
Ở đây rồi mẹ của nó giống như bây giờ nó ngồi đâu nó là khóc nói như khùng vậy đó.
And the wife
lo sợ lắm. Cả nhà em đều khủng hoảng ở trong nhà.
extremely traumatized. Ông nói ông sẽ không.
Dạ.
Okay, we appreciate it.
Oh, come here. Thank you. Early, thank you. For my family come here because they busy up there, so scared. I don't want my family die no more. Please help me. For all my family come here early. No, I don't want to be die.
We'll work.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry to make you like that. Thank you.
Thank you. Đơn sọc nào. Okay, sure. Mình lên lầu phòng vợ. Mình lên lầu phòng vợ.
Do you think
chụp hình chưa?
Chưa, nãy giờ sau phim rồi. Đứng như chụp hình, đứng như chụp hình.
Máy tại đâu rồi?
Để em để nó.
send a very pessimistic
Chị đứng như chụp hình.
message to activists in Vietnam about human rights?
And they want a photo with him, the husband and wife.
Looked at Biden's administration for its ever deteriorating situation on human rights. I believe that is exactly why we had this hearing today, so there will be no ambiguity about the status of human rights in Vietnam. It is bad and getting worse by the day. And so we're appealing to the President and the Vice President and Secretary Tillerson to take seriously that they have a moral obligation to raise these cases. Yes, raise other issues too, but raise the individuals who are being persecuted because of their faith, as well as those for their political beliefs, and to be very, very, very assertive about that with facts and figures and names. You know, one of the things that Ronald Reagan did so extraordinarily well and risked superpower confrontation with the Soviet Union. He and Secretary Shultz, when they were in Moscow, would meet with political prisoners, would raise those cases, eyeball to eyeball. There would be no, here's some names that they would slip to him in the middle of the night. It was very, very open, and I think it made a difference. The contrast was last year with President Obama, who went to Hanoi and missed a huge opportunity to get political prisoners freed, and instead, it was one big vacation. And I was extraordinarily disappointed with that trip. We had asked him to raise individual names, and the proof was, as he took off in Air Force One, they went and arrested even more people. There's got to be a consequence. We have all the laws on the books that we need. We're going to do even additional legislation, similar to the Vietnam Human Rights Act. But right now, under the Magnitsky Act, we can hold individuals to account anywhere in the world where they commit human rights abuses. We can say, if you ever want to come to the United States, sorry, it's denied. You and your family. You can't send your family and kids here to go to school, for example, to universities, because you commit torture, you disqualify yourself from that kind of travel to this country. We'll also disallow you from using our banking system and our financial system. You become a pariah as an individual because you have tortured and you have abused individuals. The Frank Wolf International Religious Freedom Act, which I'm the author of, applies that same sense of visa denial, same authorities for that, as well as the idea that banking is precluded to you for those who abuse those of people of faith. So if you want to torture Montagnard or mistreat the Buddhists in Vietnam, there is a price. We have the law on the books, just needs to be enforced. So that's why we have this hearing today. It's an appeal to the President and to the Vice President and the Secretary of State to take seriously our moral obligation to raise human rights. If you want a better trading situation with the United States, if you want to cooperate in the area of security, at the core of it has to be how well or poorly are you treating your own people. We stand in solidarity with the oppressed, not the oppressor. And the oppressor is the Prime Minister and the government of Vietnam. And the people of Vietnam deserve better than what they're getting from their government.
Do you have any concerns about an American foreign policy that relegates American values and human rights to the back seat?
Well, it's been relegated for 8 years under President Obama. Human rights were put not just on the back seat, but outside the car. And I find that, and I've had hearings on countries all around the world, including Vietnam and China, where they have not raised human rights issues in any meaningful fashion, even Iran. That said, there's an opportunity, and of course we await whether or not the President will be what I hope he will be, very strong and disciplined when he talks about human rights, and when he talks to leaders, has names, lists of names, and say, release these people. When President Obama met with Hu Jintao, and here he is, a Nobel Peace Prize winner, this is President Obama, and we were calling, I had a hearing, calling on him to raise the issue of Liu Xiaobo, who got the Nobel Peace Prize as well, as we all know. He was standing side by side with the jailer of a Peace Prize winner and hundreds of thousands of Falun Gong, Tibetan Buddhists, Uyghur Muslims, Catholic and evangelical and Protestant Christians who are in jail, horribly being mistreated and tortured. And when he was asked a question by the press about human rights, our President, Obama, not only demurred, he said no mas pretty much, and he said, well, they have a different culture and they have a different political system. Yes, it's a dictatorship, and you insult the Chinese, Mr. President Obama, when you say they have a different culture. The Chinese people understand human rights. What do you think Tiananmen Square was all about? What do you think all these brave and courageous people, just like in Vietnam, who stand up and suffer prison because they want freedom and democracy and fundamental human rights? Right now, the new administration is somewhat of a blank slate. They're new. Certainly Mike Pence understands human rights, having served in Congress, so I have very high hopes that he will be a strong voice, and I hope equally the President will be a strong voice and a very effective one on behalf of the people of Vietnam and other suffering dissidents, bloggers, journalists, religious freedom advocates all over the world. That's right.
Để sao hai người